Council President Hudson. We will start with the minutes from the December 19th, 2019 meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next up, we have a report from our secretary, Joe.
Yes, good morning. I'm pleased to announce that all of the board members have been reappointed for another year.
Great. Thank you all.
There's correspondence in your packet from the Office of the State Comptroller approving the latest version of our financial plan, so that was good news.
Good.
And as a related item, there's correspondence from me to the Industrial Development Agency. On the board's behalf, I asked them to start the process of amending Series 2019A, which is on your agenda today. So it's contingent upon your vote today, but we had to start the process so that the IDA could have a public hearing.
Got it.
We can talk about that further on the agenda. That's my report.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Next up, we have our report from our program manager, Chris. Morning.
Update in front of you, just to run through on upper left-hand corner there. Under project bids and procurement, just wanted to chat a little bit about that. We did receive bids on Henniger. We've been going through those bids. We met with the apparent low bidder yesterday to kind of do a de-scope meeting to talk through that, because there was a fair amount of disparity between the low bid and then the second. So we walked through that yesterday in good detail. About that, have a couple follow-up items that we still want to go through. The intent is to get the next step, obviously, is to get a letter of intent. The bidder is secure in the bid, and we have a couple follow-up items that we want to do our due diligence on, and then come back together for that. So, but it looks like we'll be moving in that direction at the moment. So, under Clarion Elms project that was advertised, will be advertised this week. Anticipation of receiving bids for that in March here as we move forward. The Fowler interior package, finalizing that. Again, moving down the road of the anticipation of bidding in February and March. The same thing with Danforth. That'll extend March, April, and then the Blodgett site package. This was a package, just we had some additional funds at Blodgett and put together a package to do a parking lot replacement, reconstruction of 2 parking lots over at Blodgett, which is very much needed. So we're working on that. So overall, on our procurement side, by the second quarter of 20, we'll be largely through all of our procurement, with one exception that we know of at the moment, which is a site package for Corcoran. We have some money in the budget for that, and then if everything came together the way we wanted to, the plan was always to do that. So that would be probably towards the fourth quarter of 20 or the first quarter of 21 that we would put that site package together. And we're also having some discussions on other potential opportunities, which more to come on that. I don't have anything definitive to report on that at the moment. In terms of financing and approvals, a fair amount of stuff that was approved this month, as Joe indicated off, the OSC approved the revised financial plan. We have some action this morning to add some buildings to the 2019A financing, and that is a resolution that you'll have in the packet there. As I mentioned, we're still evaluating and trying to come up with some additional work packages that we can add, as we start to bring projects to closure and get a better handle on where we are on the budget. Our Fraser, our final cost report was submitted. That was our first that's the final report that we put in to tally all the costs, and then to initiate your state aid coming. So that went in and was approved by state ed. So we got that. In addition to which, a big component of our financial plan has the use of these early aid start request forms, which basically is the trigger to allow aid to start to flow on the project for projects that were planned to be continuing beyond an 18-month period. So those have been submitted for Bellevue, Ed Smith, Grant, Huntington, and Blodgett. So, and we received. Beyond that, there was one new one here that I'm not seeking action on today, but we have had some requests for additional professional services, extension of some additional professional services. So we're working through that. I anticipate coming back to you at the next meeting with potentially a resolution to extend some of those services. We've had several of the buildings that have extended and gone longer, and with that comes some additional costs for the professional services. So,
Chris, what professional services areas?
Well, there, with the professional services that we have involved in the job, Kelvin, I'd like to hold, because we're having some discussions with respect to entitlement on that and duration and cost. So if I could hold on that one,
No,
if you don't mind.
No, that's fine. When I hear that, I'm thinking legal, architectural, those are...
Correct. Yes, those are all,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions on procurement and/or approvals in that section? Sure.
For being tardy. But I want to ask you about Blodgett, okay? When you talk about the things that you're looking for Blodgett, I just left Blodgett. And inside that school, if you're doing all the exterior, nothing's happening to the interior of that school. There's holes in the floor when you walk on the carpeting. I took quite a few pictures. And the piping coming down in Blodgett, you touch it, it's hot. So you have children in there that's touching these hot pipes. So I just took a stroll through there. So what are we doing for the interior of Blodgett?
Sure. I mean, we've done various things in the interior of Blodgett with some interior doors. We've done the toilet room renovations. We've done, obviously, the exterior doors, which are not the inside of there, and we've done, I know the district has done a fair amount of painting over there in the classrooms, and and I think you have Tom, you have a project going, right, to put radiator covers, the new radiator covers?
Come on up, Tom, if you're going to talk, I need you to come up.
With respect to the steam piping in particular, I wanted
Yeah, the existing radiators, and we have these in a number of our schools, there's like usually a cover that's like a piece of masonite. So what we started doing at Blodgett is we actually made a cover that goes over it. It's a sheet metal cover. Our staff's been doing that. We spent a bunch of money. The carpeting in the building is in bad shape. Unfortunately, it's got asbestos tile under it. So the only way we can remove that, we have to do an abatement job, which has to be done over the summer. Last summer, we did get 6 rooms done on the first floor and replace those floors. We're hoping to do, if we have the funding, additional rooms on the upper floors as we go. But we had so much other construction in the building last year, and we did paint almost the entire upper floors.
And I can appreciate the painting, but I'm concerned about that hot heat that those kids are going to touch on that pipe. And then I'm looking at one of the tiles in the ceiling where there's supposed to be a monitor, a security camera. The whole tile is torn out, the monitor is hanging. I got quite a few pictures of the inside of Blodgett, and I'm not very happy about what I saw in Blodgett.
I'll go through the building. I mean, we have a lot of, the building needs a major renovation. There wasn't enough money in the project to do everything we wanted to do, so we're hoping to do more work in there down the road.
And I mean, it looks nice from the outside, but when you're driving by, that's all exterior. If you were going to do anything, I would have wished that you would have done the inside to keep the children safe and left outside the way it was.
Well, we had windows failing, bricks coming off the building. We had to keep the water out because if you did any work on the inside, it would get destroyed.
And I did take pictures of the tile that's ripped up, that's still ripped up, that's going through the center of the building. So anyway.
So maybe just on that point, though, we can, either Jaime or Tom can just remind us what the long-term plan is there. Is that, I mean, are we just going to fix what we can when we can, or is the plan to bring a larger project into a phase 3? Let's just hear a little bit about
And
that.
I hope we would, Mr. Mayor, because when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing an equity problem here. And I'm not thinking that it's not very equitable when you're talking about those schools that you're dealing with, and I have a problem with that.
Again, we didn't have enough money for the project, so it's going to be part of JSCB 3. But in the meantime, we will continue to do some work in the building with money that we have in the first.
Good, Helen? Okay, thanks. What else, Chris?
Just along the lines of construction, just continuing to move forward. Just to highlight a couple things, actually, Blodgett was the first one on our list. We did complete the new ADA ramp that goes from the back by the gym into the building, with the exception of the flooring covering. In other words, the ramp is constructed, the handrails are there, and then we got to put, so that's was a big one in terms of the access to the building, to be able to access the building from both the front and the back. So that's there. And then punch list work is ongoing over there. Grant, again, moving forward with that exterior masonry work, the restoration work on the outside of the building is completed. The renovations continue in the pool locker rooms and the toilet rooms, the roof and the interior spaces. Grant, we have a lot of things significantly completed over at Grant, and then there's some areas that still have some small things that need to be completed on. So, but we're working to that and to get through that and complete that. Huntington, just to give you some sense there, the toilet room renovations, again, significant or substantially completed. 15 of the 19 rooms that we were going to renovate have been completed. We have two sets of toilet rooms left that are over by the cafeteria, the upper floor and the lower floor there that we're working towards getting those moving forward. Ed Smith, again, we're occupied, we're working through, and the punch list is a predominant theme over there, working through the punch list and completing everything there. Same thing with Bellevue, getting through punch list and getting the commissioning completed to make sure all your systems are functioning the way they're supposed to be and dialing those in, which takes a little bit of time. On Fowler site, making good progress over there. I just wanted to highlight that, the concrete as it relates to the mat that we were putting down is completed. That's about 3,200 yards of concrete, which is a significant amount of concrete that we put down there. And the picture that's displayed there under your construction photos kind of shows where we're at with that. That's at the curve at the end. So that was a nice accomplishment to get the concrete down, which is what we were hoping to do and the weather has been cooperative, surprisingly, so it's good. Under constraints and critical issues, any questions on construction update? Just underneath the constraints, just to highlight on the closeout, our focus predominantly right now is Ed Smith and Bellevue to get those dialed down so that we have those completed and final paid and put us in a position to our final cost reports. That's our focus on those. Grant, Huntington, and Blodgett, continuing to move forward and trying to get those dialed out as well. And then procurement, obviously our eyes are on getting, as I mentioned, by the end of the second quarter of 2020 to try and have that significantly dialed down. So, and then the only other one I was going to mention under there is just that we're working on change conditions. We've had this has been carried for several months on our updates in terms of the discovered conditions, the field conditions, things that we didn't anticipate always impact us, but we focused our efforts as of lately on trying to make that change management process a bit more efficient so that we can move things through the line a little bit more quickly and keep things moving. So, and I guess the other one is just that we're about 45%, and the $300 million in terms of paid to date, so about halfway through in terms of payment to date and work in place. So I had
More questions for Chris? Okay, thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have our financial statements. Morning.
Good morning. Okay, if you all have your financial statements and if you want to follow along with me, I am going to start down on page 5. Basically, just the highlights of the month was vendor payments, interest income, and we did have a debt service payment for the month of November. So at the end of November, our total cash for both Phase 1 and Phase 2 totaled $96.6 million. And compared to the October statement, cash decreased by $10.9 million due to vendor payments, which totaled $6.5 million, the debt service payment of $4.4 million, and we had an increase of interest income of $126,000. The total liabilities there, that does include the $223 million, includes our total capital assets, which represents all the activity for closed projects up to June 30th of 2019, so that's all of Phase 1. And we will not reflect Fraser, which is closed, until next year. The upcoming will be 6/30/2020. So that does encompass all of Phase 1. The total liabilities at the close of November was $299.8 million, and that includes the $23 million ban that we still have outstanding and current year and long-term liabilities, of which are bond payments. So at the end of November, the unaudited total net position was $19.9 million. 6, which is the Statement of Sources and Expenditures. The Phase 1 year-to-date sources includes receipt of the pass-through funding from the district of $1.8 million, and the subsidy payment, which was received back in September of $359,000. Phase 1 expenditures include the debt service interest payment and the subsidy transfer out to the district reported in September. On Phase 2, our year-to-date sources through November reflects the pass-through funding from the district of $2.5 million for debt service payments and $695,000 reimbursement we had, which I reported back in September, and along with a total of $902,000 in interest on investments that we've earned this year alone. The total capital outlay under the expenditure side on Phase 2 is $55.9 million, as well as the $2.5 million interest payment is reflected there as well. On to page 7, and this is our cash flow statement. Our cash flow statement reports the total cash that we've spent actually right up until November, and then the rest of the year is projected. You can see all the things that I just mentioned, the $6.5 million in expense, the $4.4 million for the interest payment, as well as the $126,000 in investment income shown in November. So we're anticipating $147 million in project funds at the end of this fiscal year. And then on the final page, page 8, that is our revenue and expense from inception to date. And inception to date sources for Phase 1 shows a total of $142.9 million, and expenses were $141.6. And the sources for Phase 2 are $216 million, and total expenditures to date is $124.4 million. And that concludes my report. Does anybody have any questions? Nope.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along, we have our compliance officer report, and it looks like a presentation to go along with it. Lloyd, come on up.
Hey, Mayor, I had requested a screen from IT, but unfortunately it didn't arrive, so
That's okay. That works.
very good.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
So I haven't been here in a while, so I did the presentation a little different this time. I wanted to show the numbers from the previous report to show the changes that were made. The first 2 slides, this just shows the schools that are closed out. The schools that are closed out, but these numbers continue to be in the report, and I'll show that on the next slides. So last time we actually presented, Lamont and Landon and Ryan met afterwards, and we had some concern about the resident and the student numbers. So what we did is, this is our LCP tracker system. Previously, the contractors had an option on how they classified their workers, so we gave them the option. We noticed that the numbers were significantly small, so we requested that they put it in, and we made it mandatory. So this is just a screenshot of how they have to enter in the data. So they cannot complete their certified payrolls now without classifying the city resident, so then we can get an accurate count. Although the hours were the same, we were looking for the residency number. When they get to this screen, this is where they check down and check in, and then this allows them to continue with their certified payroll to submit into their pay application. So in this slide, I added the December numbers to show the difference. What we found, it was very significant. We weren't here to report, but it was 14.69 on the residency and 8% on the students. As you can see, because of that, we had thousands of hours that are now designated as residents. A lot of contractors aren't aware of their workers, so they just do it as normal. They don't know that that helps the program. So this is our new number, which we're very proud of. As you can see, we're at 19% on the minority, 11.49 on the women, 9.47 on the student, and 19.22 on the residency. Residency is still a little bit shy, but it's significantly higher than last time. So we're continuing to monitor this. We're working with the GCs that are very helpful in making sure their subs account for all of their workers. Okay, so hopefully I can see. So the first one is going to be professional services. We have about 8.2 million that was subbed out to the MBE firms, and so far 4.5 million has been paid out. So it looks like about 54% has been paid to the MBE firms for the professional services side. On the women-owned business side, about 4.3 million was subbed to them, and about 2.5 has already been paid out. So about 58%. When we go to construction for phase one, 11.4 million was subbed out to the MBE firms. About 50, is that 9.9, I'm sorry. I got the progressives and they're not working for me. I think I'm going to go to the paper. Okay, so we went to professional services. So that was construction. All right, so then I'm going to go to the women-owned businesses. And about 18 million was subbed out to the women-owned firms, and of that, 15 million has been paid out. So about 85% has been paid out to the women-owned firms on the construction tranche one side. Construction phase one on a WBE, 18 million, 15, okay, that's the 85%. Now, on the total for the two is about 20 million. For tranche two construction, 11 million has been paid out, so about 53% of the tranche one and tranche two combination. Now for the women, 23 million was subbed out, and 15 million has been paid out for the construction, so that's about 66% has been paid out to the women-owned firms for the construction tranche two portion. So now we get to the hours. For professional services, we're looking at 177,000 total hours, and these are the percentages, but these the percentages in orange total to the next slide. So this is just for this category, and you'll see how they total on the next one. I'm sorry. Okay, professional services for, there's the total at the bottom, 229,000, and of that, that's how we get the 17% for minority, 27% for the women, and 21.33% for the resident, and 13% for the students. And this is, again, just professional services tranche two. On the construction side, for the EEO hours, about 475,000 hours. And then that equates to 18.13 on a minority, 4.84 on the women. And as you can see, construction typically brings us down with the women. Although we're meeting with Greg Lancette after this to talk about the additional women that he has in the hall to bring them on, but historically that's always been a problem. So professional services has really helped the project in the beginning, even at the ratio that they're counted for back office staff. 18% on the resident and 8.71% on the student. So when we total all of that up, we track 769,000 hours. Of that, we get the 19.9% on the minority, 11.49 on the women, 19.22 on the resident, and 9.47 on the student. So doing really well. We continue to do audits, work with Lamont's office to continue to see. I know EOC is working with a lot of people that are coming in, so we continue to work with them as projects close out. We're monitoring who's going to other projects. Some may have 20 hours on one job and see. And some people are actually calling us saying we've been laid off, and we actually call the contractors and see if we can get them shifted to another project. Okay, the next slide is just to continue to show our social media campaign. We try to keep the community updated on the progress of the schools. We're also working with Source Social Connect, who is a Syracuse-based firm. She's looking to talk with teachers and construction workers to just see how they feel about the project. She started on the right, just a little interview to let them know if they're interested to contact her, so we could get some testimonies from the community on how they feel about the work that's being done.
Boyd, on that, how do you folks measure success with that social media campaign?
That's a good question. I know a lot of people look at likes, but we look at the people that are commenting. She gets the feedback. She forwards us emails with people that have questions. A lot of people don't comment, but they'll email her directly, and she'll forward to us. So some people are looking for jobs. Some people are looking at the status of the school. There's various questions, but that's basically to keep people aware. So we'll post all of the, like we posted Henniker, all of the outreach events and the training that happens. We got two or three schools coming up. So just to get people in the room. We had a very good success turnout at Henniker because of social media and our Constant Contact campaign. So we just try to get people in the room and keep them aware of what's going on.
What were the numbers at Henniker?
Packed room. I would have to go back to the sign-in sheet.
Just a guesstimate.
About 40 with everybody? 20? Yeah, like 40.
Oh, and what was your expectation?
I was hoping for about that, because after we sent out the Constant Contact, we call everyone, we follow up, and they RSVP, and then we call them again the day of. So we try to hold them accountable to at least show up, because then we get less people. We do get a lot of people that say we didn't know about the project. So our Constant Contact tells us that you knew about it, you opened it, and you saw it. Whether you came or not, we let you know, and we followed up with a call. So and that's everybody on the Syracuse list. Everybody gets called. Exactly. And then what we do afterwards, we take the sign-in sheets and we connect the people that are bidding. We direct them to the plan where they can get plans and specs, and we just try to be that middle connection so they're not left out there. The next slide is just a picture of Grant, and then gentleman filling out some information at EOC. Any information that we get from anybody on the project, we try to get it up on the platforms. It's just so people can have access to it, and if they contact us, we'll refer them to the people that may be able to help them, EOC, Turner, one of the contractors, whoever it may be.
Question for you. I
Yes.
saw in there when you had the numbers of the MWB residency, the Chase still showed up with 0.
Yeah, so they have their intern, per our hearing. Their intern is working with them. We're monitoring to make sure the intern is not a one and done. I actually talked with the vice president of Chase 3 days ago, and they're keeping that employee on who's a resident on other projects, even though they're almost done. But they want to mold this individual to working on multiple projects with LaChase. So he's going to remain in the Syracuse office, and they want him to be involved in more projects than just this, especially because it's almost done. So although we didn't get hours on this project because of how late they came in the game, they're still going to maintain that hiring. We got 50%. We got somebody hired. I know it was a challenge, but I know Lamont and I were concerned about once the project was done, they were going to let the person go. So we keep reminding them that we're monitoring that person.
Lloyd, so you say that they currently are working on another project?
No, they're still on this one, but when this project is over, they're going to continue to work with LaChase in their Syracuse office.
Lloyd?
Sure.
By the way, I just want to say, I think that that's great work overall. And the question I want to ask is the numbers are pretty impressive. How do they compare to phase 1? I mean, I know we didn't have a lot of this, but
I think they're larger because we came in the beginning, phase 1, the project had already started, so we did a lot of retroactive work. So I'm not sure if we got it all. but we worked with Sharon to get that information. So depending on what we got is determine what we reported. Phase 1 was a success. Ultimately, the numbers were all met. But being that we were in the beginning, we were able to capture everything from professional services upward. And so even at the 25% for their back office staff, they are required to send us a workforce projection. And then when that starts to deviate, then we let them know we're aware. And we get to see that monthly with the reporting. So you don't have time to get to the end of the project and there's nothing that can be done.
Larry, I would add it's actually better, this phase is better just because there's more components. Residency components, school district kid components
That we didn't have in the
in the first phase. So this is inherently better just from that aspect, that we have more of our city residents working, we have more of our students working, we have more women working. So, it's definitely inherently better.
Yeah, right, yeah. So, no, it's good. I mean, it's good.
Progress.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. What's next? Okay, looks like we're ready for resolutions. Joe, you want to start walking us through them?
Actually, Mayor, before we do that, I have a question, maybe related to Chris, but before I ask that question, I want to congratulate the school board, the superintendent, the common council, mayor, your office, on that STEAM school. For 2 decades, literally for 2 decades, they've been trying to get that STEAM school done. I was on the school board in 2000, and through 4 or 5 different superintendents, different mayors, we were just trying to get that done. And for you folks to be able to get that done and be so aligned throughout the state, just kudos to all of you folks for making that happen. So, you folks should be applauding yourselves for getting that done. That's huge, huge. So I just wanted to offer that. I should have stayed on the school board a little bit longer, just so. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. The STEAM school, is that going to be outside of the JSCB? Is that going to? So that's outside of this.
It is, yeah.
That's good. Not
Currently
bad
working
there.
with the county. They're gonna do the financing of it. So yeah, it's outside of that model. But we've made a lot of progress. It's great to have all the support we have. Now we just need to get it done. So we'll graciously accept your kudos, but I think hold the applause until we get the project done. Thank you, Calvin. Right.
I think some of the things that outside of JSCB is great. However, some of the components here, some of the goal, again, I know there's a lot of moving parts. It'd be great that that's also incorporated
Absolutely.
in that as well.
Agreed. Thank you. Okay, Joe, you're up.
Yes, we have several resolutions today, beginning with resolution number 1 of 2020, which would be the monthly payment to Landon and Ryan.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 2 would be the monthly payment to the Turner Construction Company.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 3 would be the monthly payments to the various Tranche 1 contractors.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 4 would be the monthly payments to the various Tranche 2 contractors.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 5 is to accept donations, refreshments to the training program. The companies donating are listed on Appendix A.
So moved.
Second.
The discussion. You need a resolution for this? Someone's going to donate the refreshments? We need a resolution?
Well, the legal issue would be a couple of these entities do business with the board. So we wanted to be very transparent about the fact that although they have contracts with us, the amounts are obviously small.
If we can be bought for $500, boy, that's... Because, and I appreciate that. Don't our contracts inherently have language about conflicts in the contracts that we sign?
In terms of the public bidding process. But
And look, I'm not going to hold this up. This
we
just,
kind of modeled this after the city, which the same question comes up often with the Common Council.
Right.
But again, for transparency, it's always been our recommendation that the governing body accept gifts from individuals or companies, especially if they're doing business with the entity.
I just normally, organizations have ethic policies. The ethic policies would have this language in there. Typically, it's $100. I just, again, this is great. Just a in fact, we're doing a resolution for $500, $800. It's just, it's government, I guess. So, I'm
Noted.
done. I'm sorry.
Err on the side of transparency. I think that's
Okay.
Did we have a motion there? I think we did, and a second. We did have some discussion. Thank you, Calvin. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Moving on, we have resolution number 6, which, as Chris mentioned earlier, the goal of this resolution is to amend resolution number 84 of 2018, which ultimately authorized the Series 2019 A bonds. And the good news is that there are excess proceeds from that bond issuance. And so through this amendment, we would like to add Clary, Danforth, ELM, and Henniger High to the Series 2019 proceeds and be able to use them going forward in this construction season.
Second.
Sure.
So can you explain is the money because there's some unmet need? Is there some, were there add alternates or that weren't approved? I guess what I'm trying to understand is if you were working with a budget, suddenly we're just going to dump additional money into those schools because we have it?
I'll have to defer to either the program manager or the finance staff.
Good afternoon. So with the 2019A borrowing, you might recall this was for 2 large projects, and then we added $1 million for 3 small projects in case the contingency was needed if the bids came in high. So we added $3 million that for right now it looks like we won't need that for those 3 projects. In addition to that, we have been earning more interest than we had anticipated, quite a bit in fact. So at this point, we've earned almost $3 million on the proceeds that are sitting in the bank. We're going to have money in the bank going forward, so we think that's actually going to grow to be close to $5 million. So it's not that we planned on spending money in buildings and now we don't need it. Those 2 incidents really are the main reasons that there's excess proceeds available. So this resolution, we're not asking to borrow any more money. We're just asking your permission to use the proceeds from those issuances to pay for projects that are upcoming. That way we can borrow less in this final borrowing in March.
So the point is to borrow less.
That is the point, but it does also give us some flexibility with those funds being freed up so that if there's an ad alternate for a project that's coming up that otherwise wouldn't be affordable, we'd be able to use that money that we already have for that purpose.
It's also going to your unforeseen conditions issue?
Mayor, if I could just follow up. Suzanne, I thought there were arbitrage issues with the interest earned. I thought that had to go back to the state, that interest that we actually earn on those investments that you couldn't do. I mean, it's great, but I didn't think you could do that.
That is correct. There's a calculation that we go through every year to make sure we don't trigger arbitrage, which is earning more interest on proceeds from debt than you're paying. We have not bumped into that yet. I'm hoping that we don't. But at the end, those interest amounts will sit in the bank account and can be used as though they're bond proceeds if they're not subject to payment back for arbitrage. So they can be used for construction on projects or for debt service. So we do go through that calculation. We haven't triggered that yet. It would be a good problem.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Okay, good.
Good question. Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
The next series of resolutions deal with some contract adjustments for professional services. Resolution number 7 would add Huntington Elementary School to the Energy and Environment LLC contract at no additional cost.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 8 would amend the Labella contract to add additional fee because of the increase in project cost for Fowler.
So is this overall for Fowler, or is this for just the field portion of it, the extra costs? And are we looking at any more extra costs associated?
If you recall, about a year ago, we expanded the budget at Fowler as a whole, not as in one particular area, just as a whole. This resolution is, with that, we have to proportionally increase. The architects are entitled to a fee adjustment if we expand the building budget. That's the way the contract is written. So all we've done here is this is a bit down the line. We wanted a few things to come together at Fowler in terms of the interior package before we agreed on what the expansion of their contract would be in terms of their fee increase to be proportional to that. So that's all we're doing. We're not changing what we're spending at Fowler. We're not moving it around. It's just this is purely for the architect for the design phase services, and as a product of their contract says their fee shall be increased proportionally.
Okay. Do we have a motion on that?
You need a motion?
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 9 would amend the Cadeni Architects contract to add $60,000 for reimbursable expenses.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Likewise, resolution number 10 would amend the Ashley McGraw contract to add $60,000 in reimbursable expenses.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That completes our resolutions.
Okay, any other business to come before the board? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
And I just want